And time management is something that I think you master over time, and you just, it's a 1% improvement every day, right? I
Yep.
have a team that I coach that I had 2 of their folks yesterday on coaching calls, and I had the leader this morning, and both calls yesterday were chaotic. They're reactive. They feel like they're, they get to the end of the day and they feel like they've run all day, but they haven't accomplished anything. And both of those conversations led to their time block in their calendar. And both of them said, my calendar has gone to poop. I'm not following it. I'm not using it right now. And so I got on with the Rainmaker this morning and I said, hey, how's your calendar? Because there's a theme inside your organization going on. And he goes, what calendar? And I said, speed of the leader, speed of the pack. If you're not following a calendar, guess what starts to happen inside your organization? They start following and mimicking your behavior. So what are you going to do to bring the structure back? Especially right now, everyone's tired. Everyone's tired. The days are getting shorter. We're getting less sunlight, which makes us want to stay inside more, which makes us want to eat more, which doesn't make us want to work out. And so all of these external forces right now are already working against us, on top of a market that's making us run faster than we ever have. And without using the tools is a recipe for chaos, right? I hope that was helpful.
No, it's very helpful. And I think it's apropos. And I see some
new faces.
Yep, I see some people that said they were going to be here and poured back in and had some specific questions that I sent you. So I'd love to get started. Everyone, This is a good friend and a great resource. Brindley Tucker. Brindley is an amazing coach and really does a great job of leading by example. During COVID, I was following your breakthroughs with Brindley, and I appreciate your vulnerability. And your openness, and I can see that you are practicing what you preach, and you're not afraid to say, hey, I'm not doing these things and these are the results. And so I had to get back into some of these systems because it really is just right. It's daily rituals, daily practices.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, and honestly, like, we're all human, right? There's going to be days that we do it. And welcome, Letitia, Chris, Matthew to the call, and Josh, hi. And I think it's Kimby. Is it Kimby, or is that short for Kimberly? But Kim, welcome as well. We're all human, and human behavior is cyclical. And there's going to be times that we're doing it really well. Amber just jumped on the call and she's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm killing it. It's killing me. Everything's awesome. And then there's going to be days that we're like, I don't want to get out of bed. This sucks, right? It's just recognizing when we're in those moments, what tools we're not using. And right now, what I'm finding, the tool that most people are not using that would be the highest best use is their calendars and their time blocking, which is not what we're talking about today. It's just something that's a theme that's coming up as I'm talking to teams across the country and I'm on calls, and I just wanted to bring that up. So we can go ahead and jump into today's topic, which is I'm excited about. Justin, could you give me sharing privileges, darling, so I could?
Of course. I'm gonna go ahead.
So while he's doing that, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about your data bank. And Justin submitted a lot of things that you guys asked about, and I really want this to be interactive. So if you have a piece of paper and a pen, keep it handy. We're going to do some math. A lot of people know that if you're ever on a call with me, you should probably have a calculator, a pen, and a piece of paper, because we're going to do some type of math. And I want you guys to ask questions. So we're going to go today through what a database looks like, how to nurture it, what some of those lead gen levers are and how to utilize them, what a MET versus a non-MET is, and how to know what you need in your database to build a predictable business. And then we're going to talk about conversion rates. For those of you that are doing a higher volume of outbound lead gen, of inbound lead gen, what those conversion rates are and what you should look like based on some of what the top teams in the country are doing. Justin asked me earlier who I coach. I don't really like to get caught up in names. I think that's coming from a place of ego. What I will say is that the majority of my clients are doing anywhere. My biggest client is actually an indie broker out of Arizona that does about 3,500 transactions a year. And then I coach a rainmaker that has 24 units a year. And then there's some pretty big names in between. So the knowledge that I'm bringing to you is from a collection of teams that I've worked with over the course of my 5 years as a coach now. I have worked with probably all of the bigger expansion teams at one point or another. So this is all coming from a very real life in the business type situation. So now that we have some screen share privileges, let's start it off. So Gary tells us the size of your real estate sales business will be in direct proportion to the size and quality of your database. Your database is your data bank. And I was just on a call with a brokerage team out of North Carolina, and I shared with them, your database is not just your SOI. Your SOI is a section of your database. So your database is your overall data bank, database of the people that may do business with you, buy, sell, or invest at any point in their life. And there's a number of ways that these people can get into your database. One of the favorite exercises that I like to do is that if you have an iPhone, you can pick up your iPhone and go to your contacts, and on the right hand, and sorry, Droid users, I just don't know how to do this on a Droid because I don't have one, but I'm sure there's a same way you could do it. But if you go to your contacts and you go down to Z, so you hit Z on the right hand side and you scroll all the way down, there will be a number at the bottom. When you get to the very, very bottom, there's a number right there. My number is 19,931. That's how many contacts are in my phone. Now I can tell you right now, our database only has, I think, 14,000 in it. So I'm missing about 5,000 people. So I'm not even great at this because Lord knows the last time I cleaned up this phone. I mean, these are 19,000 people. I don't know 19,000 people. That's ridiculous, right? Yet if you're sitting there saying, well, I don't have a database or it's only my SOI, I guarantee you got a lot of people in that thing that you hold every day that are not in a centralized location where you can systematically market to them. That's the database. The database is a holding place in which you can store people's information that you can systematically market to in order to turn them into future business. So what are the laws of the database? Number one, you got to build it. Now, a lot of people will say, do I use command? Do I use this? Do you use, I don't care what you use, as long as you're going to use it. As long as your agents are going to use it. And that you stick to it. Don't change CRMs every year. Pick something, stick to it, build it, and then feed it every day. Every day you should be putting a new person into your database. Unless you spend every day at home by yourself, which I doubt anyone does, you are coming across someone that you didn't know, or around someone that should be going into that database. So you've got to be feeding it every day, whether that's through lead gen or networking. And we're going to talk about some of the various lead gen levers, yet you've got to be feeding it every day. And I know I'm hammering this home and this is basic information, yet basic information is what we need to hear on repeat sometimes. Are you feeding your database every day? Next law is to communicate with it systematically. I was just on a call. I have a lot of clients that are doing Zillow Premier right now. And by the way, if you didn't hear, Zillow is getting out of buying homes. So if you are in a Zillow Flex or Zillow Premier program, and I'm at Zillow Flex, not Zillow Premier, but if you're in any of the Zillow programs, you might start to see an influx of leads because they're dispersing those because they're no longer buying homes. Just FYI, insider information that was on Inman yesterday. So you're going to communicate with it systematically. So do you have a 36 touch in place? Are you sending emails? Are you doing quarterly calls? I tell agents, even if you don't have a formal 36 touch set up yet, go ahead and start setting up quarterly calls. Start setting up some type of follow-up or some type of system that is going to remind you to call them every 3 months. If you can just do that piece to start and then start building in biweekly emails, here's something to write down, and it comes straight out of my 6 a.m. spin class this morning. I can't take credit for it. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency. And what happens, guys, is we get ready to get ready to get ready to get ready. I need my database to be perfect. I need everyone's contact information to be perfect. I need to have all the bells and whistles in the CRM that's going to tell me that. No, you don't. You need a phone and a voice and a finger. That's it. It does not have to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. Perfection will come over time. Perfection will come with consistency, right? And then lastly, the last law of the database is to service every lead, every single lead. So I was on this call with this Zillow Flex team, and I challenged them. I said, how many times do you pick up that phone, go show that first house, and then when they tell you they're not ready to buy in 3 months, you disqualify them, they go into trash, and you never talk to them again? No, that's a lead that will turn into future business and that will turn into business in the future. You just need a plan to service that lead and to systematically communicate with it until it converts into a sale. Every single person you meet at some point in their life will think about buying, selling, or investing. And if they're not buying, it's typically because they're not educated. Does that make sense? So now let's talk about your lead generation levers. So this is one of my favorites. Well, I don't want to cold call. Well, you shouldn't cold call. I'm telling you right now, you shouldn't cold call. First of all, there's this thing called the do not call list that you can get sued for a whole lot of money if you're cold calling, right? I mean, and I'll just tell you guys, it's not just the people you're calling that are suing you. It's your competitors that are suing you. She's a dear friend of mine, so I will keep her name private. But there's a massive agent that got sued in the state of Florida by another realtor. Somebody that just didn't like her. So stop cold calling. Go to the phone. Go to the database. You have plenty of people that you can call, plenty of levers that you can pull that are not cold calling. So what are they? Number one, open houses. Those of you, some of you might be new on the call. The fastest way to get buyers is to call your top listing agents in your office and say, hey, I'll do some open houses for you. Can I sit in an open house at one of your listings? Go sit at open houses. Go spend a Saturday, commit to a weekend, do it for a couple hours and get some buyers. For sale by owners, expireds, door knocking. If it's a beautiful day, the weather is gorgeous right now in Knoxville. I'm coming to see y'all, by the way. Shameless plug. I'm teaching a class in your area on October 29th on Friday. You should come. It's going to be super fun. And I think there'll be free food. So it's beautiful outside. Go door knock, go talk to people, circle prospecting, networking. This one I think I love more than anything because people forget that networking is a form of lead gen. Some of you get your energy by being around other people. So go network. Here's where networking is not a lever. If you don't do anything with the people that you meet, right? If you go to that happy hour and you just talk to a bunch of people and then you leave and you don't do anything, that's not a lead gen lever, that's a party, right? A lead gen lever is, I'm going to go to this happy hour and I'm going to collect 10 pieces of contact information and I'm going to put it into my database. That's a lead gen lever. Now you've taken networking and you've made it work for you. You've turned it into business. But I know so many people that sign up for BNI and do all these chamber breakfasts and they go spend all that time away from their family and it never turns into business because they talk to 25 people, but they never ask for their information. And then of course calls and of course Zillow. I put Zillow on here only because I do this presentation to a lot of people and a lot of people are doing Zillow right now. And that is a lever for some people. I'm not here to get into a political debate whether you should support Zillow in your business or not. I will tell you this, everything in your business should make sense. And everything in your business should have a 7 to 10 times return. So if you're buying leads right now and you're not getting a 7 to 10 times return, stop buying leads and start putting that money into things that are getting you a higher return. The whole point of lead gen levers, guys, is that you should never do anything that doesn't give you joy. Otherwise, you're working against yourself. So if you don't enjoy talking to people in public, then don't network. If you don't feel safe door knocking, then don't door knock. Find the thing that you love doing and do more of it. Find the thing that works the best for you and double down on it. Don't do things just because the guy next door is, because you're not the guy next door or the gal next door. You're you, right? For me, there's only so much networking I can do because I talk to people all day long. So I'm probably going to prefer to do some open houses once a week rather than go network every single day. You have to find your balance. Find your levers that work for you. So now let's talk about Mets versus non-Mets. And I don't think this is a conversation that we have enough. So let's be clear on what the difference is. A Met is someone that you have had a two-way exchange with. You've had a two-way conversation, and this can happen via phone, via text, via Facebook Messenger, via Instagram DM, as long as the two of you have communicated. A non-Met is someone that has not reciprocated communication, meaning they come into Josh's website, but Josh has not been able to initiate contact, meaning there has not been a two-way exchange or a conversation. Why is it important to have more Mets than non-Mets? Because we have higher conversion rates at Mets. So research shows us that for each 12 people in your Met database that you market to 33 to 36 times a year, you can expect two pieces of business: a repeat sale and one referral. So most of the time, if you are servicing at a high level, every sale should also give you a referral. For your haven't Mets, in the haven't met portion, every 50 people that you market to 12 times a year will generate one sale. So we don't want to forget about the non-Mets. We just don't give them as much attention because their conversion is lower. So my question to you then becomes, do you want to work harder or smarter? Smarter, right? So then all it should be about is building your Met database, nurturing those relationships so you have two-way conversation. I was just talking to an agent and I said, how would it make you feel if you've been seeing your doctor for 10 years and they just listed their home for 2.5 million and they didn't list it with you? How would that feel? Not good. But guess what? You're not going to know it doesn't feel too good until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yet if you had been
Exactly.
talking about real estate every single time you went into the doctor's office, when he was ready to sell his $2.5 million house, most likely he's going to come to you if you talk about it. I think sometimes, and I know I get delusional around this, is that we think that everybody knows a realtor. Most people don't know a realtor, and NAR will tell you they don't, because they don't use the same realtor on every purchase, because realtors don't do a good job of systematically marketing to them. So we're going to run some numbers here in a minute. And the magic, guys, is when you're able to use Mets and non-Mets together. When you're constantly nurturing that Met database, but at the same time, you're focused on and you have a plan, 12 touches a year that are converting those non-Mets into Mets. Okay. Now, this is where we're going to do some math, right? And you can actually determine what your database is worth. So before we go to that slide, I'm going to take you to the equation so you can run your own numbers. So what you're going to do, and I'll send this, Justin has the presentation so he can PDF it and send it out to the group so you have this, is that you want to take your goal GCI. So whatever your goal GCI is, let's say it's 300,000, and you want to divide it by your average commission. And then you're going to divide it by your split. and that's going to give you the number of deals that you need. Okay. So let's say that that number becomes 50 deals. Okay. You're going to say the number of deals divided by the opportunity for conversion. Okay. So we're going to say that the opportunity for conversion is 5%. So if we do 50 divided by 0.05, that's 1,000. That means that you have a minimum of 1,000 contacts that you need to have in your database. You can also take them. So then you're going to take the minimum contacts that you need and you're going to divide it by your conversion rate, which your conversion rate might be higher. It might be like 10%. And that's going to tell you how many you actually need. Now that's one way to do it. Okay. It's one way to do it based on conversion rates. Now, if you do it based on conversion, you know what that means? You got to know what your conversion is, which we'll get to in a minute. But I wanted to confuse you before I simplified it for you. Okay. So here's the simple way to do it. The simple way is you're going to find out what your database is worth. So Josh is going to go into his database and he's going to ask himself, how many METs do I have in my database? And he's going to say he has 500 METs. Okay, awesome. We're going to go with 500. You're going to divide the number of METs that you have in your database by 6. Why 6? Because we have a ratio of 12 to 2 on our MET database, right? For every 12 METs, we should get 2 pieces of business. What's 12 divided by 2?
6.
6, right? So you're going to divide the number of METs by 6. And that's going to tell you how many deals you can expect to get out of that database. You're then going to multiply that number by your average GCI. So if you look on the left, what I've given you is your units 50, volume 10 million, GCI 300, 500 METs, your average GCI is 5,500. On the right, 500 METs divided by 6 equals 83 deals. 83 deals times your average commission is going to give you $456,500. Overall, currently where you sit is how much money your database is worth. Now, you do need to subtract the units from the previous year because most likely those people are not going to give you business for that year. So that's what you're seeing in subtracting that 25. So you'll notice in 2020, they did 25 units. So we subtract that from the 83 and get 58. And that's actually what it will be worth this year. Does that make sense? So this is how you see what your database is worth today. Going into the predictable business is going to show you what you need to build it to be able to get the money that you want, which is where most of us are today. Most of us already have a MET database. We just need to grow it to get to where we need to go. And the most important way to do that, guys, and the most important tool that you need in your tool belt is you have to be tracking your activities. So we know the laws of the database. We know the lead gen levers. You have to be able to track what you're doing and track your activities in order to know your conversion rates. If you don't know your conversion rates, then you're just freaking dialing for, you're just dialing. There's no purpose, there's no intention. You're working harder, not smarter. Every single thing in real estate is predictable and based on a math equation. What happens is we get busy, we get into reactive mode. We're really good about tracking for like 30 days or even 10 days. And then, oh, I don't need to do that because the business is here now, right? I tracked, I was intentional. I got the activities. Now I got some deals going and all of a sudden we stopped tracking. We stopped paying attention. And guys, literally tracking can be as simple as a notebook and a pen. And you sit down to do your lead generation and you go contacts, 1, 2, tick, 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 tick. Appointment, tick, tick. And then you go into a spreadsheet and you just put the date, the number of contacts, and the appointment. for those of you that I lost at conversion rate, a conversion rate is what your activities, how your activities are turning into results, into cash money. Okay. So when we talk about conversion, we want to know what this activity is leading to get us to the next activity that's getting us to the cash money closing, right? So typically, when we talk about lead sources and we talk about conversion rates, I'm going to give you now, because somebody asked for this, and get ready for your questions, because as soon as we're done with this slide, I'm going to open it up for questions for you guys. You guys can ask me anything, and it doesn't just have to be about lead gen. You can ask me anything in your business. Typically, you're going to have a 5% contact to set conversion rate. So that is contact made. Remember, contact is two-way conversation to a set appointment. This is an average because 10% contact to set is very achievable with a FSBO and an expire. However, circle prospecting is like 2% at best. So we kind of take an average here and say 5%. You could typically go 5% contact to set. So if you go back to our original slide where we were looking at the opportunity conversion, that's where that 5% comes from. Okay. Typically, you should have a 70% set to held. So 70% of the appointments that you set should actually be held. You should actually be going on them. If I'm seeing lower than a 70%, then I'm starting to ask questions like, are we qualifying the appointment before we set it? Are we confirming the appointment? There's a reason that that appointment's not being held. 80% of your held appointments should turn into signed agreements, whether that's a listing agreement or a buyer brokerage agreement. So if that's lower than 80%, then what I'm asking myself is why? Where are we not asking for the agreement? Why are they not signing the agreement? Are we not scripted properly? Are we wasting our time? And then as a rule of thumb, 125 dials a day, and these are not going to be Sphere. These are going to be basically like, I mean, they are database. I mean, they're database calls. So anybody in your database, they're also basically anyone you're out dialing, you're outbounding, you're calling out, is 125 dials should lead to 2 appointments and 70 conversations.
What's that? Yeah, I did. He said he's out.
If you're doing, he
said I'll have some maybe
Will,
next
if
week.
you could, Will, honey, if you could mute yourself, darling. Thank you, honey. 125 dials a day should lead to 2 appointments and 70 conversations. If you're doing a lot of inbound, if you are doing a Zillow or website or any type of advertising that's bringing inbound leads, your speed to lead should be 3 minutes or less. If you want a higher opportunity to convert. Does that make sense? Is everybody completely confused now and utterly confused and their brains are like squirreling? Good. It should be, because it makes you think, right? All right, so I'm going to open it up now for questions, ahas, and also what's working for you. What do you guys, I love to collect information. So what is working for you guys right now? What are you killing it at when it comes to leads? Where are you getting them? How are you converting? What's working? What's not working? Or we can all go eat lunch.
Josh had some good questions, right? You sent me yesterday.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of pull that up. I was reading it. I mean, in general, I thought this was great, and I appreciate taking the time to do it, because for me, I've heard all this before, but I literally just led a team meeting where we had a huge 6-month run, just massive. I mean, we did almost as much as, I don't know, we did a year ago in 6 weeks, and we flushed the pipeline, right? So we have closed everything out. And what you say is like, you get done with that and you look back and you go, what haven't we done? That's right. We haven't done any lead gen. So that was the team meeting we had this morning. And I think that there's some pieces here that I can take back as far as kind of reassessing or helping each agent value the database and how important it is. One of the conversations I know I have all the time, we do not outbound prospect. We are basically database and referral. And I say it all the time, well, we need to add that lever. We need to add that lever. And the funny part is I would never do it. Like, I just don't ever take the time to do it. And someone told me 2 weeks ago, they were like, well, you're great in your sphere. Like, why are you spending any time doing that? Right. Sorry. Why would you go try to learn a new trick that you don't do well? And why not just dive in deeper and continue to do what you do consistently? And so that was completely our team meeting this morning. So I thought that was really good. I mean, I don't really know how to phrase the question, but maybe I'll just throw it out there and we'll see where the conversation goes. We are wanting to expand in 22. And one of the big tasks or projects that I have over the next couple months is to build out a lead gen team into markets that I don't currently exist in. And so how do you establish and lead that in new markets when you don't have the typical outbound prospecting as your lead gen lever?
So a couple things I would think of, Josh, is number one, it would start with, where are you going to expand? Because if you are truly in model with expansion, your leads should be what are leading you to expand.
Okay.
Right? What a lot of people do, and he's a dear friend of mine, is they look at some of these bigger names that expanded in other cities and other markets. And what they don't realize is that they had the money, the resources, primarily the money, to go into a market and turn on outbound leads or inbound leads, like turn on a boomtown, right? And generate leads for that market. They were able to lead with the who, right? So there's two ways to lead for expansion. You lead with leads or you lead with who. They were able to, because they had the money and the resources to turn the leads on in any market, they went and found the who and the partner. But the way that Gary actually started was inkblot method. Your leads should start to lead you where you're going to expand. Meaning you don't want to drive that far anymore, because the evolution of your database is that they're moving up and they're moving out, right? And so that is about going and you already have the leads, and now you go find the who of someone in that market that you want to do business with. Does that make sense, Josh?
Yep.
So I would be really doing, if you're wanting to expand in the next, you said year, right?
Yep.
Right now is like mission critical tracking data. Like, you should know every single thing about your database, like where your leads are coming from, where they're moving to, what your feeder markets are, what your second home markets are. Like, right now is like information, data, because the data will show you what the next logical step is for expansion. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. And I think, I've heard that before, but it's like breaking it down a little bit further, or you're just making it more of a priority, is to really understand that.
And it's also, guys, I say this a lot because all of them are my dear friends. Be careful that you're not comparing your insides to other people's outsides. And Josh, by no means am I saying you're doing this. It's just a really good time to remind folks. Ben Kinney is a 17-year overnight success. Right? Like, he didn't get to where he is today overnight. And he didn't get to where he is today now without partnering with another massive expansionist, Chris Suarez, and getting into business with him. And Chris didn't get there overnight, right? And Chris actually is more of an example of inkblot method, because I do believe that his first expansion partners were outside the Portland area, inside Oregon and inside Washington, where Ben, he went clear halfway across country and partnered, I believe it was with Adelina in Austin, because he found the who, right? So just be really careful, like that you're realizing where you are and looking at your business and what makes sense and what your database is telling you. Your database will lead you to where you need to expand, where you're going to make the most money in expansion, right?
I've got a question that I think gets to some of what Josh was talking about. So when we were doing this, I was asking for feedback on, hey, what do you want from a lead generation class? And their response was, I don't do lead generation, right? I rely on referrals and maybe I buy some leads. And I think that's, and then someone else, mentioned, hey, coaching talks to me about door knocking, and I don't want to do door knocking. So I think it's can we talk about limiting beliefs around lead generation? Because what I heard, I think, Josh, I'll ask you a different question, man. So why don't you, who is not in your world that deserves to be in your world? You're a great guy to be around. We moved the meeting to have you, right? Like, you got a big impact on people. So if I approach it with that heart, like, who is out there getting served by the worst of us? Because we're not out there reaching to them. And we know some of these teams and these businesses that are mass saturating are not, I don't know. Some of them are great. Some of them are not giving service that I would want my friends and family to receive. So yeah,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
No,
Sorry
no,
about that.
I would say, can we talk about the limiting beliefs? I think that really is a mindset part for me, even, like when I'm in a bothering people, I don't want to lead gen.
I'm also a big fan of getting real and getting honest, right?
Yeah.
And so the first thing I'm going to ask you is, if you're sitting there, and there's nothing wrong with this, no one is good or bad, right? We're all just in different places of our journey. Yet if you're sitting there and you looked at that list that I put up on the screen and you're like, I don't want to do any of it, then we have a deeper root that we need to get to. There's a deeper blockage. And it may be that you need to consider, is this the right thing for you? Because here's the truth of the matter. You can't be successful in real estate without doing some form of lead generation. Whether that is working referrals, which Josh has done an amazing job of being able to build a business. So is Mike Hicks, on solely on people that he likes and he wants to talk to. Yet, if you don't even want to talk to those people, then it's probably not the lead generation that is the challenge. There may be something else blocking you. And if you want to talk offline about that, you can call me and we can see if I can help. If not, we can refer you to someone that might be able to. So that's what I would say, number one. And then number two is really getting quiet with yourself and asking yourself, what does give me joy? And what doesn't give me joy? And what I find is that people will, we all have different energy levels throughout the day. Some of us have a lot of energy in the morning. Some of us have way more energy in the afternoon. What I'm always fascinated to find is that people that have a lot of energy in the morning or a lot of energy in the afternoon are doing their lead gen in the morning. Yes, the rule of thumb has always been do it in the morning, 2 to 3 hours. And in a perfect world, that's what we want. Yet, if you're not going to do it in the morning, but you would do 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon, then move your lead gen to the afternoon. Be smart, right? This is where that whole, knowing yourself also. A lot of times it's networking, and I've got a ton of agents that networking is their bread and butter. They're not going to network at 9 o'clock in the morning. They're going to network at 7 o'clock at night. So their calendars, going back to the original conversation we had at the beginning of this call, it's how is your calendar structured to support your business and support your results? Guys, again, don't cold call. Lead generation is not cold calling. Lead generation is making contacts with people that can go into your database so that when they're ready to buy, sell, or invest, they come to you. And Josh just proved it in being a vulnerable example of what happens when we get a lot of business. We stop nurturing that database, and then all of a sudden the pipeline's dry and we have no future business. He proves the point that lead generation is not cold calling, because you're not lead generating for right now business. If you're lead generating for right now business, you got a massive issue. You're lead generating right now for future business so that your pipeline doesn't go dry and you constantly have a revolving pipeline of people coming in and out. And again, why do we have to have this conversation over and over? It's the same reason. How many of you on the call have toddlers? How many of you have looked at that toddler that's peed their pants again and God, really, dude? Like, again, like you pooped in your pants again? It's because we're toddlers when it comes to this stuff, because it's not comfortable. It's new, and it's always going to be new because the business is new. The way we lead gen today is not the way we lead gen a year ago. And the way that we lead gen today is certainly not the way we lead gen 3 years ago, right? The market changes, the way in which we do business changes, and we constantly need those reminders. That was a little preachy, and I hope it helped, Justin. Any other questions? Well, everybody stayed, so it had to have been valuable.
Letty had a question about systems.
Yeah.
Systems, and I think it's, from what I heard, there's some pretty basic systems you talked about over and over. Calendar is probably the first one, right?
Yeah. So first of
Yeah.
all, is your lead gen on your calendar? That's number one, right? And is there somebody holding you accountable to it? That's number two. And then number three is, where are you storing your information? And if you're a brand new agent and you're like, well, my command's not set up yet, or I need it. No, again, consistency over perfection. Pull up a spreadsheet, start taking people out of your phone and putting them in a spreadsheet so that when command is ready, right, you can upload it and it's ready to go. Yet done is better than perfect. Imperfect action is better than no action. So the system can be as simple as a spreadsheet and getting your contacts out of your phone into a spreadsheet. Here's the second thing I'll tell you is, if you're looking at new systems, do not ask yourself, what do I need to support my business today? Ask yourself, what do I need to do to support my business when it's 5 times the size that it is today? Otherwise, you're going to be changing systems every year. I'm doing a class at 12:30 today where we're doing a full systems audit of the attendees' businesses. We're doing it again on November 3rd. You guys are going to get it in person in Knoxville on Friday the 29th. So you want to come to that class. We're going to audit every single system in your business. And that's what you're going to hear me preach, is don't build systems for today, build systems for your future business. Otherwise, you're going to create technical debt, and you're just going to keep stacking system on top of system. And next thing you know, you wake up and you're like, it's a shit show and I got to redo all my systems. Sorry, Mo, I just cussed on recording. I'll pay KW cares. I just get really passionate about that because so many people waste time in reactive mode building systems for today.
Is there a resource that I can go and have a checklist of systems that teams that are successful have, or like checklists for transaction coordinator, admin, director of operations, buyer's agent, blah, blah, blah. So, showing assistant, just so I can look at it and like mark out, okay, I don't need to, I'm too small for this. I'll mark that out, but I like that. I'll keep that. It'll give me an outline, and then I can incorporate my ideas in our team. So that way I don't have to start from scratch.
Come to my class on the 29th, Chris. Or send someone from your team.
It'll be at the Farragut office, y'all. From 10.
And we're going to go through all
to
that, Chris.
Okay.
Yep.
And then Chris, if you want to set up a consult call with me, like give me some grace in scheduling, because I'm out this week and next for my business planning and a bunch of stuff and coming to Knoxville. But I think this is more of an in-depth offline call than me just giving like a generalized answer.
Okay.
And I'd be more than happy. And maybe when I'm in Knoxville, if you come to the class, we could take a few minutes to chat.
And Justin, you have her contact info.
I do. And I'm going to leave a plug for the recording. Come on the 29th. If you're watching this in the future, KW Connect, expansion. There are checklists in there. DO, like none of us, it's all systems. Go to ESL, like that's where we went, and there's some good starting places.
Here's
Not
the thing too,
transaction
though.
checklist, but all the 30, 60, 90s.
Be careful also, guys. What happens when you ask 100 people their opinions? What do you get?
100 answers.
100 answers. So you get a lot of you. So Chris, my suggestion there is find a team that's where you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, and go buy them lunch or dinner and say, can we come spend a day with you? And can we see under your hood? The Loken Group has an awesome website called TLG Shares. TLG Shares. I can only share that because their VP of operations is runs our coaching company. She's my partner inside of our coaching company. So I coach Loken. They have everything on their website, Chris. So they're a good resource for that as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. You guys
I
are
will
amazing.
plug. No, so here's the other thing to go back to it is that whenever I get asked those questions, it's knowing who to ask. And Brindley is one of those people to ask. There's a few other people that we bring here. The reason why we're bringing those people here is because we're trying to curate, hey, these are some people within KW that will change your world if you get in relation with them, and there's some great that are willing to pour back into us. So I really appreciate you coming, Brindley.
Well, I appreciate you guys. I love sharing and helping agents. So if we can do anything to help, leverage is what I do. Leverage is usually the biggest pain point. And I really hope I get to see everybody in Knoxville. It'd be super fun. Super, super fun. So awesome. Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.